Okay, let's try a little thought experiment. When I say the words medieval period, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's, well, a time of scientific darkness, a time we've all come to know by a very specific name.
Yeah, that's the one. The Dark Ages. I mean, the name itself just screams stagnation, right? It's like someone flipped a switch and all the lights of scientific curiosity just went out. At least, that's the story we're often told. But what if that's not the whole story? What if history's greatest lesson in what makes science tick actually comes from that exact period? What if, while one part of the world was kind of treading water, another part was having one of the most incredible scientific booms ever?
Well, that's not a what if. It's exactly what was happening. We're going to pull back the curtain on a forgotten golden age, an era that totally turns our whole idea of the Dark Ages right on its head. And you can see the difference right here. On one hand, you've got the common view, the Dark Ages, scientific stagnation in the West. But the reality? That was the Islamic Golden Age. We're talking from roughly 750 to 1250 CE. And listen, this wasn't some tiny flicker of progress. This was a full-on bonfire of innovation. This is where we get things like algebra and even the basics of cataract surgery. Seriously.
So, what was the secret sauce? If you had to boil this entire incredible era down to just one central lesson, it's this: diversity is the engine of discovery. It wasn't about one genius person or one single culture. It was about the incredible dynamic mix of all of them together. Okay, so how on earth did this happen? What were the ingredients for this, well, this perfect storm of scientific progress? Let's get into it.
It really comes down to three key pillars. First, you had this culture of inquiry. People saw understanding the world as a mission both scientifically and spiritually. Second, there was this massive, almost obsessive effort to translate everything, all the knowledge from the Greeks, Romans, Persians, Indians, you name it, into Arabic. And the third, maybe the most important, was just sheer diversity. You had an empire stretching from Spain to China, a massive melting pot of Persians, Arabs, North Africans, and so many more, all bumping into each other and sharing ideas. And if you want a perfect picture of this in action, look no further than the House of Wisdom in Baghdad. I mean, don't just think of it as a library. That's way too small. This was a living, breathing think tank. Imagine the world's top scholars from totally different backgrounds, all in the same building, working side by side on the biggest problems of the day. How cool is that?
So you create an environment like that. What kind of results do you get? Well, let's meet a few of the superstars of this era, the innovators who literally changed the world.
First up, we have Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi. He was a Persian scholar at that very House of Wisdom we were just talking about. And yeah, if you've ever had to solve for X in school, he's the guy you can thank, or blam, depending on your experience.
So here's the game-changing idea he had. Before him, math was mostly used to solve very specific, one-off problems, like how long do the sides of this one shed need to be? It was all case by case. But Al-Khwarizmi, drawing on ideas from India, from the Greeks, from all over, he introduced this revolutionary concept of using variables as placeholders. And that little trick allowed him to create general rules, universal procedures that could solve any problem of that type. And that, my friends, is the birth of algebra.
All right, next up, a trio of geniuses. The Banu Musa brothers, three Persian siblings, also hanging out at the House of Wisdom, who were absolute masters of mechanics. They even wrote a book about it called The Book of Ingenious Devices, which is just an amazing title.
And what made them different, especially from the ancient Greeks, was their mindset. The Greeks were often all about the theory, the abstract principles. The Banu Musa brothers, they were builders, they were engineers. They wanted to see if their ideas would actually work in the real world.
And check this out. One of their most mind-blowing innovations was an automatic crankshaft. So they designed these clever devices where something moving up and down, like a float in water, could be used to make something else spin. Now think about that for a second. Linear motion, up and down, turned into rotational motion, spinning around. That is literally the core principle behind every modern engine, from your car to a lawnmower. It's wild.
Okay, for our last innovator, we have Ibn Sina. This guy was an absolute polymath, a rock star of intellect. He was based in Bukhara, another major hub on the Silk Road, and he wasn't just a physician. He was a philosopher, a physicist. His real genius was pulling together ideas from all over the known world, from east and west. And get this, in his massive book, The Canon of Medicine, he laid out rules for testing new drugs that sound like they could have been written yesterday. He said, first, you have to test the drug on a patient with only that one specific illness. Second, you have to test it on humans, because what works on a lion might not work on us. And third, you have to carefully and methodically study the results. I mean, that is the bedrock of modern clinical trials, right there. Okay, so let's zoom out. We've got the father of algebra, these brilliant engineers, a pioneer of modern medicine. What's the one thing they all have in common? It was their access to a massive library of different ideas from different cultures, right? Al-Khwarizmi was blending Indian and Greek mathematics. The Banu Musa brothers were pulling inspiration for their devices from all over, Iran, India, China. Ibn Sina famously learned Indian math from a local grocer and combined it with Greek medical texts. Their individual genius was incredible for sure, but it was supercharged by all this diverse knowledge they were swimming in.
So was this just a lucky coincidence? A one-off thing that happened 1,000 years ago? Or is this a timeless rule about how innovation actually works?
All right, let's jump in our time machine and fast forward to today, because modern science has actually put this idea to the test.
So in 2015, a huge study out of Harvard looked at 2.5 million scientific papers. And the result? It was crystal clear. Teams with more ethnic diversity didn't just do a little better. Their papers got significantly more citations, and they were published in more high-impact journals. The history told us the story, and now the data proves it.
But why? What's going on in our brains? Well, the psychology here is just fascinating. When you're in a room with people from different backgrounds, you stop making assumptions. You can't just assume everyone thinks like you or agrees with you. So you have to work harder, you anticipate questions, and you build a stronger case. That friction, that exposure to new ways of thinking, it literally makes us more creative.
So when you put it all together, the Islamic Golden Age wasn't some historical accident. It wasn't a fluke. It was a perfect 1,000-year-old demonstration of a powerful and timeless principle. Diversity fuels discovery. It's just that simple.
And that leaves us with a really big question for our own time, doesn't it? If this was the secret to innovation 1,000 years ago, and the data proves it's still the secret today, what incredible discoveries are we leaving on the table right now?